Well, that was fun.
Hello, folks. Very, very sorry about that. I hope you can all join us again now. It'd be great if you can. There's folk joining us already. Sorry about that. I must have hit. So I lost all internet, and then I hit something, and then it all went wrong. So I don't know what's going on.
Fat fingers. So, we'll give it a second, and
we'll give it a minute or two just to let the folk come back in. That's a good idea. Right.
Apologies, Julie.
Yeah. Don't know what happened there. That's not happened in 2 years.
No. That's the funny thing. It was all going so well, and then you moved to Yale, and then
Yale was okay last week.
Yeah, but
right, we're live again, folks. There's folk coming in again. That's magic.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's bring Julie back on.
Okay, folks, that's super. We're back on 4 here. Right, let's bring Julie back on and blather too. That's fine.
Hi, Julie again. It's his fault.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on here at all. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please share this all over the place again to get us back up and let folk know that we're back on again? Because we are.
Viola's asking, can we blame it on the landslides? Yes. It's
yes,
the landslides in
Shetland.
Blame it on the
landslides. That's absolutely great idea.
And Iansville, that's fine. Perfect. What were you discussing? What were we talking about? Oh, great to have you back, Craig. We were saying about
dance bands.
Dance bands, yeah. So is there a kind of still a big dance band culture coming up in the north? No, is it kind of dying off?
Yeah, it's something that really died off quite a bit before COVID. It's still there a little bit, but not much, no.
Right, yeah. We find that a lot of the accordion clubs as well in Scotland have had a similar issue where the main clientele are wary of going out as well.
Yeah, that's it.
But
there we go. There's lots of people coming on and saying they're back with us, so that's fantastic. Please keep sharing this about for us, folks. That would be fantastic as well.
Yeah. But while we're waiting, we're going to play another track from you, Julie. Dundas Loch.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a bit about that one?
I've got a friend who is actually from the area, and she gave me this piece of music. And I haven't played very much of Phil Cunningham's music. Mm-hmm. And when she gave me this one, I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. And because I've got the connection with her, I thought, I'm going to learn this properly.
Fantastic.
Well, it's a really nice tune. Fantastic. Yeah, it's a lovely tune, isn't it?
That, isn't it? Yeah. She gave me the music.
Did you find yourself, I mean, you're just across the border at Carlisle, did you find yourself listening to Scottish music quite a bit as well then?
A little bit. Yeah. I like the continental and Austrian style music.
Okay. And have you had a lot of chance to play that going abroad and things? Or?
No, not really. No. I actually got the opportunity to play at a wedding in France next week, but because of the current situation with COVID and transport, we're not able to drive. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to play at the wedding in the chateau in the south of France.
Yeah. So tell me, competition. You got into competition. Did you enjoy competing?
Only if I played well. If I didn't play well, I got
very... Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah. But you were very successful in competition.
Yeah, I was placed third in the advanced solo twice. Yeah. And then I had a lot of success with duets as well. When Jean Corrigan and I paired up together and did duets, and we won the Premiership duet 3 times actually. Yeah.
How long have you and Jean been playing together then now?
Well, we started when we played together for about 10 years, probably in the 80s, in the 1980s into the 90s, and then Jean moved to the northeast, so it wasn't as easy then. So I played a lot with Ron Hodson then, but when Jean came back to Carlisle, it coincided with Ron retiring, so we've started back doing things together. So I do solo work and I do duet work as well. So.
And you you mentioned before we came on air that there's a possibility of a little project coming up.
Well, we've been talking about making a CD to record some tracks. Mm-hmm. And we've never got round to it, but we're nearly there with it. So because I'm saying this tonight, we're definitely going to.
Yep, that's it now.
Tartan's exclusive.
Tartan's exclusive. There's no turning back at all now. Talking of that, then, we do have a duet here with you and Jean. Tell us a wee bit about this piece of music.
This piece, I first heard a French lady called Danielle Pauly play it.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of years ago. Was just knocked out by it. It's written by Michel Genet, who's written an awful lot of this style of music. It's Tyrolean French style. And this one, when I ordered it, came as a duet, so that's fantastic. The Fleur de Jour.
Well, remember, folks, if you've got any comments of that, please put them in, and please keep sharing for us as well. The numbers are flying back up again. We've got away with my bluter. I ain't going to press anything apart from an accordion key from now on.
Promises.
I like one quote in your bio that says, playing accordion introduced you to alcohol and parties.
Such a social life comes with musical instruments, isn't there? So
yeah. And then you've had quite a few instruments during your life playing now as well, haven't you? And that was I like that story you told about borrowing the money from the bank and the bank saying, did an accordion really cost that much? Yeah.
When I decided to buy I bought a 5-voice Bulgari instrument, and when I decided to buy it, I was working for a high street bank at the time, and yes, the manager asked me to go to his room because he wasn't convinced that that's what I was spending all that money on when I bought the instrument.
Anyway, you must have had muscles galore if you could handle a 5-voice accordion.
I played it for a long time, but it was just it became too heavy. You couldn't play it. It was for competitions. It was fine, but if you played out all night, it wasn't viable. So I bought the Borsini, which I thought was going to be my last instrument, but certain things happened during COVID, and I've just trekked myself to a brand new Bulgari.
Things happen. This is not new to you, this social media, etc., because I noticed one of your videos went pretty viral. The Cuckoo Waltz, you had over 500,000 views. That's pretty impressive.
Must be the tune.
I'm sure the way it was played had a lot to do with it as well. But really good. Listen, Joey, thank you so much for. David was going to ask another question. I saw him.
I was going to say that myself and Peter have been compared to Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
Folks say compared to Laurel and Hardy, you're not funny.
We're not funny at all.
Yeah.
No. So there we go. But Joey, listen, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing some of your music with us and about your story. And apologies about our interruption in the broadcast there earlier on, but the whole thing is still there, ladies and gentlemen. There's a first half and a second half. You just have to look for both now. And thank you for so many people for joining us.
Yeah.
And I'm away to throw my laptop out the window.
It's not the laptop's the problem.
Anyway, Julia, thank you so much for coming on tonight. We are going to finish off with a tune called The Triumph March. I've actually recorded this tune myself on an album at one point in time as well. Great wee fun piece. And another one that would go down really well in Shetland because everybody can do a Boston two-step to it.
Oh, right.
That's the big dance up here that everybody does. In Scotland, it's the Gay Gordons. In Shetland, it's the Boston two-step. I don't know why that happened. But
what is it in Boston?
A Boston two-step, yeah.
No, but what is it in Boston?
The two-step? I don't know.
Yeah. What's the big dance in Boston?
Well, it's kind of like a Canadian barn dance. I always wonder what they call it, a barn dance in Canada. Do they call it something else?
A hoedown.
A hoedown, yeah. Have you got any? What's the plans for the future, Julie?
The CD with Gene.
Yes, that CD that we got exclusive on.
CD. Are you doing much live playing again? Is it starting to come in again?
We've had quite a few things over the last few weeks, but I've got a window of about 6 weeks, so I need to get to grips with this new instrument. And we've got a new little plan of there's four ladies got together, so we've got plans to do a quartet as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's getting all very complex now. Oh. That's brilliant. There's Brian Forrest saying he told you would smash it, no problems at all. I'll have to get Brian on the show some night. He's got a story or two, Davey.
Well,
he's got a story or two.
Contact. So, on that note, Julie, again, thank you much for joining us, and we will play you out with the Triumph March.
Thank you. Take care.
See you again. Bye now.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Brilliant. Great playing, eh? Fantastic.
That playing makes up for your breaking of the internet.
Me breaking the international internet-y thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you mind a while ago we spoke about the Pitlochry Highland Games?
Yes.
So I've just got a message from Mr. McNaughton.
Yeah.
And they are announcing the winner in the next few weeks.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah. I wonder how many tunes got entered for that, because I bet there was a lot.
There probably was, yeah. I think there were a lot of non-pipers.
£500 up for grabs as well, wasn't there? So that always encourages people to put pen to paper sometimes.
You'd be surprised.
That was fantastic having Julie on there. Absolutely super. Great to hear a different style of accordion playing, and done so competently. And so really nice.
So we've had kind of traditional accordion from a lot of our guests. We've had classical accordion from Neil the other day, and now we've had a heavy dose of continental from Julie.
Yeah. And classical, and we also had Will Marshall as well. Remember Will done
quite
a different stuff.
That's true. That's true.
So it's really nice to hear that. And of course, Neil Sutcliffe, when we had Neil on, it was interesting with Neil because he went through the classical vein and then ended up playing a lot of traditional stuff and Cajun stuff after that. You know,
exactly.
But there we go. Anyway, fantastic. Thanks to Julie. That was really good. And if you still watch that, folks, it's still on Facebook, YouTube, and thanks to Fast Finger Davey here, he set up part 2 of the show, and you can just flick onto it now as well, and you'll be able to see the whole thing. So there we go. Right, our next guest I met many, many years ago, about 30 plus years ago. Great fiddle player, and I've watched his career over the years, and great composer, and looking forward to having him on the show here. So let's bring on Mr. Ian Fraser. Hello, Ian.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, and I promise to touch nothing.
I feel much more comfortable now that you made a mistake and not me by taking it.
You know something? It's the first time I've ever done that. Well, I don't know what happened. There we go. That's it. Wonderful to have you on, sir. How are you doing? Are you doing fine? I'm
good. I'm feeling the lighting here looks very dramatic, maybe, but the
but that's okay. That's okay. We need some drama sometimes in this show.
Some more drama. I've had enough drama.
More drama. We've had enough drama tonight. But anyway, how's things? Are you picking up? How's playing going? Starting to play a bit again? We were speaking earlier on there, and you were telling me you've been doing a bit for Face Roche again. I think.
Yes. So we all kind of found our own way through the COVID lockdown period, and then sort of re-emerging. It felt to me that there were a number of things starting to happen, but everything's quite tentative, really. But for me personally, I've had a number of projects that are on the go, so I've been kept busy with writing, composing some stuff, working on various wee projects. The Face Ross connection was we had a great concert, a house concert here last night with the Face Ross Cayley Trail, and so that was a quiet night.
Quiet night.
Yeah, well,
probably.
I mean, it was a great night, and it was one of the things was just how people were keen to come back out and see some live music again and get back into that. But it was a great night. 5 young musicians from one from Northumberland, from I think it was South Uist, Gairloch, the Black Isle. I may have forgotten who they were all from, but they all come together on a summer program, and then they work with it. And I felt very special because so the last night was they were playing Jedburgh, and the next gig they have is Cambridge Folk Festival. So so I get mentioned in the same kind of listing as it's like the world tour on the T-shirt, like Jedburgh, Cambridge. And,
that's all right. That's pretty good.
So we put up a marquee and filled it, and had a wee tune afterwards. And so
it's nice to see the young guys getting that opportunity though again, isn't
absolutely,
it? Because I often feel for youngsters that have just maybe come out of university or at that age where you were just breaking into maybe going full time and they've been hit with COVID. That's a real hard one. That's normally that was your natural progression, that you would just carry on and start doing gigs and things, and all of a sudden off the edge of a cliff there was nothing. And it must have been really difficult for them. Whereas some of us have been playing for years and years, we'd at least seen it kind of style thing and could hope that it would go back to something of its kind of sort of way again. So
exactly.
Quite a learning experience, but let's have a wee tune for yourself. We're going to start off here with La Grande Gig. Is that right?
I mean, there is a wee. I thought I would head off to. Well, the story is, Peter, that a few years back, I was asked if I could put together a book of Canadian fiddle tunes, and I was slightly naive about what that might entail. Until I got into it and realized that Canada is an amazingly diverse place for fiddle styles. And I kind of knew that, but then I realized that between Cape Breton in the east and then the old time stuff in the Ottawa Valley, you've got Métis and French Canadian, Ukrainian, and in West Coast. So the idea of finding 60 tunes that could somehow be representative of that tradition was actually really quite difficult. But so I kind of pushed myself outside the comfort zone, and this tune I've picked is La Grande Gig, simple, which is also known as the Red River Jig. And just a little example of what you can do if you retune the fiddle. So rather than being G, D, A, E, the bottom strings get tuned up, and it gives a very different sound, just to kind of give you a wee bit of a change, if you like.
Magic. Let's have a listen to this. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Different.
It's an interesting thing, the retuning, isn't it? Because up here in Shetland, of course, a lot of the old Shetland tunes.
That's true. The ringing strings and the
Yeah. And then, of course, I always saw that as a wee kind of relationship with the Hardanger fiddle in Scandinavia. And then,
and there's some thinking that pre-amplification, if you've got that sympathetic, that other string helping to kind of project, that you can cut through for a dance. And
that's right. I took it back. Tell me, your music in your family then. Where did that start for yourself then?
Well, it started when I got offered violin lessons in school at the age of 8. And of course, the context around that is that my older brother, Alistair, was already playing the fiddle at that point. And so I, as an 8-year-old, said, well, I can do violin lessons, but I'd really like to play the accordion.
Right.
And so my parents kind of searched a bit and just couldn't find anyone nearby or local to teach an accordion at that point. And so they came back and said, well, just give the fiddle a go. And so I did, and that was with Bill Cook. So he was a music instructor in Clackmannanshire in the schools where we grew up. And also, of course, leader of the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra, and more importantly for me, he was the conductor of the Stirling Strathspey Reel Society, and so that, if you like, was a kind of the training that I got in terms of like learning to play the fiddle. Had this kind of double approach, if you like, of violin in school by and large. And then on a Tuesday night going to Stirling to the Strathspey Reel and learning lots of repertoire, lots of sets of tunes. And but beyond that, although it's kind of it's funny to think about it now, but so my dad was a piper, and so he had grown up, he played in the Callander Pipe Band and played from an early age. But when my brother and I were learning the fiddle, he decided off his own bat that he would try and teach us some tunes by sitting down at a piano and just hammering out pipe marches and Gaelic waltzes on the piano. And he wasn't a piano player, but he could find enough of the melody on the piano. So it's almost like that third way for me was my dad just playing these tunes at home and saying, see, we can pick it up. My dad, he was laterally known as Bob the Bass because at the age of 65, he decided that he would take up the double bass, the upright string bass. I got some lessons, partly because he didn't feel good enough puff to get the pipes going. And spent 20 years playing the Strathspey Reel Society, fiddlers rallies, touring around. I mean, he had way more gigs than I ever had, and so he was an influence for sure.
And interesting when you're saying about Bill Cook there as well, because I remember Bill when we started off there with some Canadian. Bill had a big interest in Canadian stuff as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Quite a few of Bill's own compositions were quite in that style as well, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, he liked to kind of, just look around, look beyond the locality and different styles, and he wrote some great tunes.
We've got another little tune on the turntable here, Norman MacLeod. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate some years back to do some teaching in New Zealand, and I was up in a wee town called Waipu, and Waipu is about an hour or so north of Auckland. And as soon as you come into that town, there's a museum called the House of Highland Memories, and suddenly discovered that here was this town that was absolutely steeped in Highland and Gaelic culture, and it had been settled by a Presbyterian minister called the Reverend Norman MacLeod. And I'd never heard this story. I knew nothing about Norman. Perhaps it was my own naive kind of just lack of knowledge. But it turned out that he had, I mean, we're talking the 19th century, but he was born in Lochhinver, actually at Clachtall. as a young man, he emigrated to St Anne's in Cape Breton on the eastern seaboard. There spent 30 years building a huge congregation in Cape Breton, and then decided for a number of reasons that maybe that Canada wasn't the promised land after all, and that they should try and find a new place. So at the age of 65, he, almost like from the pulpit, he said, I think we're going to go to Australia or New Zealand. Can we build some ships? And that's exactly what happened. So, so the congregation built over the space of about 2 or 3 years, 5 ships, and they sailed, they were at sea for 166 days.
Wow.
And ended up eventually with a wee stopover. And apparently they stopped off in Adelaide and found out that was a den of iniquity and sinfulness. And
so moved on.
I wouldn't like to say whether it's moved on or not, but they eventually negotiated this parcel of land in New Zealand. And I just thought, well, that's an incredible story that that somehow, you know, I guess I felt inspired to maybe write something that, and I thought, well, here's this, you know, this big, you know, stern, very good leader, Presbyterian minister arriving off the boat in this wee town of Waipu. He probably deserved a good strathspey. So I wrote this strathspey called The Reverend Norman MacLeod's Welcome to Waipu. And that's
I'm just imagining in my head him trying to set sail nowadays and not find a city that wasn't a den of iniquity. He could have been sailing forever.
We have to be less picky. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Because I went to Australia in 2019, just before all this kind of palaver happened. And one of the questions you get asked is, do you have a criminal record? I didn't realize I didn't realize you still needed one to go to Australia. Anyway, let's have a listen to this.
Try again.
Rolling.
Great.
No.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Yeah, it's better.
It was interesting to see that a friend of mine was in that video.
Oh, right. Well, I was going to name check these people, but maybe you can go first. Then.
Douglas Durward.
Right. Well,
Who's-
so Douglas is my nephew.
That makes sense.
And,
That makes sense.
So the people I wanted to give a particular mention to Douglas and his partner Amelia Barteles, who was sitting beside him in that video. So they're getting married in Ottawa next weekend.
Oh, fantastic!
And the other two in the video is Douglas's sister Sarah, my niece, and her husband Scott. So that was very much a family affair, that video, and it was made as a kind of little example of a slightly bigger project. I'm actually recording some more of next month. Kotarana. Kotarana is, I'm sure you will know this already, but it's the Maori name for Scotland, and I got some Creative Scotland funding to record a kind of fuller version of that Norman MacLeod story. So,
Brilliant! That's something to look out for. Beautiful melody, that. And I mean, it's safe to say, Ian, teaching has been a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
And teaching fiddle. It started in the 90s, didn't it? I mean, you started back then. Was it the Glasgow Fiddle group you had?
That's right. I moved back up to Glasgow in 1990, and at the time, Joe Miller, a great fiddle player, and she's still based in Stirling. Anyway, Joe was running this kind of this small group of fiddlers called the Glasgow Fiddle Workshop, and asked if I could take it on. And at that point, it was small enough to meet in our front room, in our living room in Kirkintilloch, where we were living at the time. And then bit by bit, over the next 2 or 3 years, it felt like it was such an amazing growth time for adult learning. And so we ended up moving to bigger premises and putting on more classes. It built up to an amazing extent, actually. And then Joe was also involved in setting up the Scottish music degree at the RCS, at the Conservatoire. And I felt very privileged to be part of that right at the very beginning. So I was teaching on that degree program for the first 10 years of it. And like you were saying about the young people coming through at that age, like 18 to 22, it's such a privilege to work with people at that stage who are already really great musicians, and it's just like, how do you help them move on or find their own path, and I love that.
Yeah, well, you must have seen a lot of them over that 10 years. I mean, there's been a lot of players went through the ranks in that time.
That's right, yeah.
It's interesting to see as well how it's developed, isn't it? And there's a lot of groups and etc. coming out of the university now.
Yes,
because of Conservatoire, and it's great to see that, because it's keeping the music live. And
absolutely,
but I do like the way it's structured, etc. You understand that yourself as a composer, etc. And that I quite like the way the stagecraft is taught, and everything is part of the course, and actually knowing what you're playing and knowing who composed stuff and things like that, I think is incredibly important. And I've said it in the show before a number of times. It drives me bonkers when somebody says, "Here's a set of reels. I can't remember what the first one's called, and I can't remember what the second one's called, and the third one I can't mind that either. But it was written by maybe it wasn't." And I
totally agree. And in fact, it's one of the things that I would, and I still do, if I'm actually working with anyone. So you have to know what the tunes are. Because it feels to me that when I was much younger, we could get away with, like, it was almost like a folky thing to just walk up on, on a stage and just, hear some tunes. I'm not quite sure what they are, but we'll see what happens, Kelly. And then, and then it just feels like you're well, not only are you kind of it's a disservice to the audience that are listening who might want to know more, but it's also to the tune writer, and so I think that stagecraft is really, really important, and also, the whole. I mean, I'm sure you've been in positions where you've turned up at a village hall and found someone saying, "Oh, didn't realize it was tonight you coming," or didn't realize you needed electricity, or and somehow be able to be in that kind of one of the kind of aspects it seems to me that you have to kind of work your way around is how to deal with these things that come up that always
absolutely. Yeah. My favourite was one hall we played in. Well, there's a couple of favourites of mine. There was one hall we played in. The stage was at one end and the power socket was at the other end.
Right.
And nobody had an extension, and you were like, this is handy. And then the other one I played at in Hoy, I think it was I can't remember what they called that. Was it the YMC Hall on Hoy on Orkney? And apparently it was the stage actually sloped towards the audience. So when you were standing on the stage, it sloped down the way. And it was to do with the olden days when they were doing the concerts. The back line of the choir could be seen the same as everybody else or something like that. But it wasn't very handy for a drummer though.
No.
Who kept sliding forward the whole time.
I remember playing at a Carrickle hall a long, long time ago, and I'm sure it's very different now, but they had amazing kind of stage lights, but it was all being run off a meter where you had to put 50 pences in. But fortunately, we found enough 50 pences to keep it going for the evening. If it's not a Carrickle, then I apologise, but
Yeah. But the teaching's taken all over the world now as well. That obviously we've been involved with the Conservatoire, gaining that reputation and building your reputation yourself. I mean, you've ended up all over the place teaching, haven't you?
I feel like really fortunate to kind of be able to, if the love for the music is part of it, but and that idea that you can sort of turn up somewhere that's not Scotland or not the UK. And find there are people who are interested in learning, and it's not necessarily about expatriates. It's actually about the how these tunes and the kind of the tradition and the people's kind of enjoyment of these tunes is kind of almost like a universal thing rather than it being particular to people who've grown up here. And I love that we've somehow developed a music form that is so relatable, but from people who are from very different cultures.
Yes, there seems to be quite an increase in traditional Scottish and Irish music in Asia, so like China, Japan, South Korea. It's very strange, because the music's coming out is phenomenal. It's fantastic. It's note perfect because they're playing from recordings and all that sort of stuff. It's brilliant, but it's just it confuses the mind when you then to hear them speaking and they don't speak English. They're speaking Chinese, and it's and introducing tunes that way. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant that the music can be travel.
Up in the Western Isles, they use that East Sogo, I think they call it. It's remote teaching for a lot of the And I heard we used some of it in Shetland as well, but there was a young lad, I think had been at school, or a young girl in Stornoway, and the family was from the Philippines or somewhere out that way, and they eventually moved back, but they managed to arrange that the child still got their fiddle lessons every week, which is fantastic when you think about it, isn't it? The other side of the world, but I also wondered what the neighbours thought in the Philippines when you hear this fiddle player playing Cutting Bracken or something like that and giving it hee-ha.
I know it's a lovely thought that they're kind of just walking by and thinking and hearing that, thinking what is going on
here. It just makes the world incredibly small.
Wow.
King of the Wood. Tell us about King of the Wood.
So, my lockdown bubble included my son, who's he lives in Bristol and he works as a filmmaker, and so he was at home with a camera, and we just kind of thought, well, one day we'll just head up so the King of the Wood is it's a very old oak tree, and it's about maybe 200 yards from the house, and it's got a little plaque saying "The King of the Wood." And I just thought maybe I could write a tune for this. I mean, when you start thinking about some of these ancient trees, in a sense, if they could see and hear, then just it'd be amazing to kind of think of all the history, and especially here in the Jed Valley, because I'm very close to Ferniehurst Castle, and the main road, to England over the Carter Bar, and so there's a lot of marauding and raiding, and sometimes very violent history, but also just a changing nature of the landscape. But if in a sense that tree could see all of that or hear all, because it's probably about 500 years old. So I wrote a tune, and so my son Duncan gets the credit for actually making the wee film.
Oh, super! Yeah, it's a great track. Great track. Lovely, lovely. And that is a piece of art.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Peter, I'm just thinking you might be overpowered with all these trees in the film. You don't get to see them very often.
Yeah. No, I know. But, you know, this sounds terrible to say this, but we moved up to Yell just 2 weeks ago from mainland Shetland. We've moved the family up to Mid-Yell. And there was this huge tree in front of the house that we've moved to, and we've had to trim him right back because he was blocking all this light into the house. And you felt absolutely so guilty. Cutting anything off a tree in Shetland was just like sacrilege. It was just terrible.
I've always thought it slightly funny that there's such a huge fiddle tradition in Shetland, and yet all these fiddles must have come from somewhere else.
Aye,
maybe that's why there's no trees in Shetland.
Oh, they're all made into fiddles, you think?
Yeah.
Maybe. There's a few old Viking galleys. I reckon there's a few old Viking galleys lying about.
Well, that'd be quite good wood for a fiddle, maybe.
I was brought up down in South Lanarkshire, and my father was a gamekeeper there for Sir Alec Douglas Hume. And of course, Sir Alec had the Hirsel down your way as well.
Yeah.
So we used to get taken down there when we were little and things to pick up a gun dog and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
It was quite interesting. So it was nice going about. So, no, a beautiful piece of music there. Beautiful piece.
Thank you.
So, any countries you've particularly really enjoyed going to work in?
Well, that's a tough question because, I mean, in a sense, well, I've not been to them all either. So there might be ones out there that there's a whole part of the world that I've not been to. But over the years, I've spent, like for instance, in the west coast of Canada, I was teaching at a summer school there for about 15 years. And so Canada has become over time when I was there every year, and have a real soft spot for, especially that in BC. New Zealand is another place where I've been fortunate to go. I think I've been there 5 or 6 times over the years, and it really intrigues me because partly connected to that story I was telling earlier about Norman MacLeod and the Scottish settlers. I mean, but also just it feels such a good vibe, and so I love it when I'm there. I'm interested that. I don't know if this is true or not, but I was reading the other day there that there are more pipe bands if you do it by a particular category in New Zealand than there are in Scotland. And
yes,
I remember someone saying to me that if you kind of scratch the surface of New Zealand, you find this huge part of Scotland that just sort of like just slightly under the radar, but it's kind of part of the whole. So I suppose maybe I like it because it feels very familiar in some ways, but that's not.
New Zealand and Shetland have a lot of connections.
That's true.
Yes, sailing, etc. Because I remember somebody telling me, I can't remember, but one of the Masonic lodges is Zetland Lodge or something like that in New Zealand, and it was the old Shetlander thing. And I think there's actually something somebody said in the Masonic Lodge here that was an initial came from New Zealand as a gift or something. This was the initial setup kind of style. It's quite interesting. It's very good.
I mean, the Shetlanders have travelled far for sure. You've got the South Shetland Islands, and you've got whaling, and there's a really great Willie Hunter tune called the Kiwi Reel that he wrote for. Yes. I think he wrote for his son who was working in New Zealand at the time, or if I've got that story right. But
it was John. I don't think it was Willie's son, but John. His name's went out of my head, but I've met the chap. Chap. He came back a couple of times, and he always amused me because he would walk about Shetland with this pair of sandals on and a pair of shorts and bare feet and things. And walk along the street in Shetland, which was maybe okay in Auckland, but maybe wasn't that great an idea in Shetland. No. But no, I remember meeting him. Yes, he was quite a character.
Talking of tourists in Shetland, is it true that rental cars in Shetland have a warning sign on the door that says "Don't open it up into the wind," or "Don't make sure you're facing away from the wind when you open the door." Or
I don't know, but it would be good advice. In fact, I was telling someone a story the other day about I had a friend that hired cars out, and a surveyor or something had hired a car, and he was halfway up a hill doing a survey, and he looked down and there was 2 Shetland ponies beating whatever out of this car. And whether they saw their reflection in it or what, I'm not sure, but they were kicking it and biting it and all this stuff. And so fortunately, the guy had a camera and took some photographs, because when they went to put a claim into the insurance company and said, what happened? Oh, it was attacked by 2 Shetland ponies.
It's a hard one to
Aye, okay.
Yeah, heard that one before. But so it's quite interesting, though. So obviously you were brought up in a musical family then. Your brother and yourself, did you ever play together then when you were younger? Or?
Well, we've not really. I mean,
no. I always think you as very, very individuals and do your own thing. And...
I mean, when you think like 4 years difference between us is nothing now, but at the time, when I was just, I suppose I was 14, and he was heading off somewhere else, to university, and then he was working down south, and I was, so we were kind of never quite in the same place apart from anything else. So we've just, and it's not like we didn't decide that we weren't going to do anything together. We just never.
No. And then composition. When you got into composition as well, and you've composed quite.
I mean, that's more recent, I would say, the composition.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. When did you get into that then? Was that?
I mean, probably in the last, probably 15 or 20 years.
Really? Right. So not really so much at the beginning.
No, absolutely not. And actually, I mean, it's probably partly a confidence thing, but there's certainly that idea that there are so many great tunes out there. What could I add to that? I need to learn all the tunes that are already written before I start. Actually, I thought, that, and eventually, I suppose I can't remember exactly how I might have started writing, but maybe just something occurred to me, or I got inspired, or saw something. I thought, well, we'll just see what happens. But I mean, when you think about how many thousands of tunes are out there, it's. I'm saying it's a good question to ask, but certainly for a lot of years I would just say, well, there's so many good tunes. Why would I need to write any more? That kind of, and then I suppose I got over that a little bit. And I think also maybe partly from my teaching practice, which is really encouraging people to be creative, and part of that creativity, if you like, is to see what you can actually come up with, and so I'd be encouraging students to kind of write, and I expect at some point I thought, well, if I'm encouraging them to write, then why don't I do it myself? And,
of course,
So when you're composing, do you use stuff to inspire you to do that? Like some people use storytelling, some people use.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes have like a wee, So here's I don't know if you can see. That's the Reverend Norman MacLeod, and so I had that. When I was starting to kind of work on that Strathspey, when I just saw that picture and kind of had that in front of me and thought, well, a fine upstanding gentleman. That kind of pictures or something like that would just help me get going, because the worst thing is having a blank bit of paper, So just getting something to kind of get you going on it certainly works for me. And the other thing I find with sorry.
No, on you go, please.
Well, I mean, not that I can play any other instrument really, but I sometimes I'll start and kind of play around with wee melody ideas on a piano, or I've got a cello that I can have a go at, and even like a whistle, and just so you're then moving into a different. It's like, so you're taking out the finger memory from what you might come up with, and I found that's worked quite well for me to kind of, even if it doesn't sound any good, but it just means I'm not using, because all these years of playing the fiddle, then these fingers are like, they can take control and just decide themselves, and that can work. That can be really good, but it can also get in the way of trying to come up with something that's new.
And then you were employed as the head of instrumental in the Borders, weren't you, for a while as well?
Yeah, that was what can I say about that? It was I think probably it's true to say that across the country, over the years, instrumental tuition in schools has always had to kind of plead for itself and kind of, and be, if you like it, able to kind of react very quickly to like an annual round of budget cuts. The one exception over the years, and we've looked to Shetland often as being a school system where it really did seem to have the support of local politicians. So, and I know that scene is changing because I've been out of it for a wee while now. But for me, a lot of my work was just being obvious enough and trying to get always just see what the benefit is to have kids be able to pick up kids able to pick up an instrument in school, a part of a learning experience that's really good for we know what I mean, I'm lucky up here. I'm teaching accordion in the schools, and it's fantastic. And this year, of course, government backed, they made all instrumental lessons free again, which is great. Which I was all for anyway, and it's good. And of course, Harris Playfair was down your way as well, wasn't it? I think he still is, and I've played with Harris a couple of times, and he was a high school teacher and doing some great work. And he was in Kelso, and now he's in Berwickshire High. And incredible musician, Harris.
He came from a place called Corfe originally, just a very small village. I was actually playing at a wedding there on Friday night.
Right. So. And as does Jenna Reid, and Jenna was one of my earliest students at the.
Was Jenna in about the kind of first year of the course? Was that about the
not far off it? I mean, maybe second year. A lovely player. She arrived with a Willie Hunter type blowing arm, and I don't mean that as a compliment. It was like she had a very strong, very great personality in her music.
There was a whole team of them came through at that point that had all got some tuition off Willie, and they were all great players. It was really nice to see that point. But I was speaking to a young lad last night. I was playing in the lounge in Lerwick last night, and there's a young lad. He's working behind the bar for his summer job. But he's at the Conservatoire now. A young chap called George Spence from Unst. And Stephen Spence, his father, he's written a lot of tunes over the years as well. So it's nice to see the generations keeping going and still going to do the course, etc. So, the Weeping Birches, tell us what this tune means to you.
So, the Weeping Birches of Kilmorek is a James Scott Skinner tune, and it goes way back in terms of like my own playing to some of the fiddle competitions, and where it would be a popular Strathspey, air to play. But the other aspect of it, though, is Kilmorek is very close to where my father's family were from, and we spent our summers as kids. Kilbirnie is where the croft was, and it's just down the hill from Kilmorek, and so it has that attachment too. And if I can just say very quickly, that Kilbirnie connection has really been of interest to me recently, because there's a really lovely younger accordion player called Amy Henderson. I don't know if you've come across Amy or not.
The name, yes.
And so she and her family live on the croft next door to my folks' croft.
Right.
And so we got together and tried to kind of just work on some tunes that had that Kilbirnie connection. Kilbirnie, not Kilbirnie in Ayrshire, but the CUL near Kiltarlity. And so we're doing an under canvas gig in Inverness at the end of next week, which is all about the Kilbirnie connection and some new tunes for that. And it just seemed like she played on the same old pine tree when she was wee as I did, like a generation beforehand. But it was through the music that we kind of met up, and so the fiddle and accordion. So that's that's probably a longer introduction than the actual tune itself. But
that would never have happened in Shetland, because there wouldn't have been a tree.
Well, of course.
True. Here we go.
Yeah, it's a lovely, powerful piece. It's just such a powerful piece.
It is, and the story behind that, which I didn't mention, is about an accident that happened with an old steam locomotive that fell over the edge at just at the Falls of Kilmorrock, and Scott Skinner, who had a great friend who lived in Bewley, told him about this accident and how for a while afterwards the birch trees around that area all seemed to well, they didn't die, but they just didn't thrive, and almost as if they were weeping in sympathy for this tragic accident that happened. So that was where the Weeping Birches of Kilmorrock title came from, but also that story. And I mean, the James Scott Skinner, of course, is a big influence. I mean, it's like every fiddle player I know grew up with the Scott Skinner book, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's a very familiar tune.
Yeah.
We've lost Peter for a moment, it looks like.
Yes, we've lost Peter. It's not the first time. He's waiting for his new router to arrive. With it's the usual. Yeah, you get told that it's next day delivery, and then they forget that it's got to get to Shetland, so it's about a week.
Right.
But as Peter gone again, yeah. While we wait for Peter, we do have one last video from yourself, and I'm not going to attempt to.
Shall I attempt it on your behalf? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, that'd be probably better. Yeah, go for it. What's this one called?
So, I mentioned Fèis Ross at the very beginning, and over a period of about 30 years, I've had a really great association with Fèis Ross, and they asked me to write a piece to commemorate 30 years of the adult Fèis, which happens in Ullapool every year. I wish it was every week, but and so this opening track from an album that we recorded last year is called Hikastai or Hikastiach, which means come on in, you're all welcome. And maybe very quickly say it starts with James Ross on piano. And then we all kind of pile in eventually. Gordon Gunn, Wendy Weatherby, Wendy Stewart, Signe Jacobs' daughter. I'm trying to think who else I might have forgotten, but there's a whole band anyway.
Fantastic. We're just going to watch the next video, Peter.
Graham Armstrong.
Hi,
guitar.
I'm here. I've went on my phone here, and I'm not touching anything else. I'm just going to leave this one out.
Let's have a wee watch of this.
Fantastic.
Stunning.
Very, very nice.
So that was live from a Blast Festival gig in McPhail Centre in Ullapool last November, I think. And the album, can I plug the album, is now out?
Yes, certainly.
So it's called Nice, as in the rock, GNEISS, which are some of the oldest rocks in Europe, and you find them up in the Northwest Highlands and in Lewis. Probably don't find them in either Dundee or Shetland, but unless
depends who stole them.
and that was a piece. That whole album was put out by Face Ross as part of that celebration of 30 years of the Adult Face.
Brilliant. Is that the best place to pop on in the Face Ross Bandcamp? And people
absolutely, that's lovely. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And remember, folks, it's all recorded, so you don't have to rush for that pen and paper. Just look back, and you'll be able to find it. And that's it. Ian, we can only thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been really nice having you on, and I hope it's not 30 years before I see you again.
No, we should have a tune.
It'd be great.
I'll find you in the lounge at some point.
Sounds good. Or we can meet halfway in Dundee at Davies, and then that'll be fine. We'll
Fisherman's Tavern.
The Fisherman's Tavern. Yeah, we'll meet somewhere. Ian, thanks so much for giving up your time on a Sunday night to come on and speak to the folks. And
I appreciate it.
Thank
you very much.
Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
All the best. Bye-bye. Hello.
So, apart from your faux pas earlier on, it's been a great show.
We've had two wonderful guests, haven't we?
We have.
Really, really good. And I'm now on my phone again. I don't know what's going on tonight. I've got gremlins.
Well,
see when we were doing the broadcast from Unst this afternoon, there was somebody in Shetland said the signal's not very good. And then somebody in California said it's okay here. How can that be? How can that be when we're just down the road? So there we go. That's how it's been. Anyway, absolutely fantastic show. Thanks so much to the guests. Brilliant guests. And really nice to have them on. Julie Best and Ian Fraser. And next week we'll be on. We've had to rejiggle things just a wee bit, but we will get some guests for you. Don't worry. And we
will confirm who the guests are during the week.
Might be me interviewing you and you interviewing me, but we'll still have a show.
Again. Not again.
We'll still do something. No, but brilliant. And we'll have to get on it and watch out for maybe interference with the polar bear. Yeah, that's maybe what it is. It's that polar bear.
Polar bear, yeah. The polar bear.
I actually haven't seen the polar bear for a couple of days, actually.
He's probably got a new suit on.
Yeah, absolutely. White one. That's it. So, right, anyway, listen, Davey, thanks very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And we'll see you next week. Take care and message us if there's anything you want to ever ask us. Remember to do that. If there's any dedications you want us to make to India, that we're always up for doing anything.
We're very approachable.
Very, very, very approachable. To make up for me pressing the wrong button. Anyway, thanks very much, folks. Take care. Good night.
All the best. Thank you.
Bye.